911, what's your emergency? Elisa asked, her voice calm and ready to help. The voice on the other end was small and shaky. Kay, can you bring me a pizza, please? Elisa paused, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She wasn't sure if she had heard correctly. Excuse me, did you say a pizza? Yes, ma'am, I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten in 3 days, the little boy said, his voice sounding so sad it made Elisa's heart ache. She glanced at the clock on the wall. It was 8:30 p.m., and the night shift had just started. Usually her calls were about loud noises or minor car accidents, but this was different. A child calling 911 for food. Something was wrong. Sweetheart, where are your parents? Can I talk to them? She asked gently. They're sleeping. They won't wake up, the boy whispered softly, so quiet that Elisa had to lean in to hear him. Elisa's stomach twisted. This wasn't a joke. She had been doing this job long enough to know when something was serious. This boy needed help fast. Don't worry, honey. We're going to help you, she reassured him. Can you tell me your name? Ethan, he murmured. My name's Ethan. Okay, Ethan, I need you to stay on the phone with me. I'm sending some police officers to help you, all right? Elisa typed Ethan's address into her computer and sent it to 2 nearby officers, Clara and Benedict. She marked it as urgent and knew they would do everything to help Ethan. Clara and Benedict were in their police car, driving quickly through the warm Alabama night. The wind from the open windows wasn't enough to cool them down. Benedict glanced at Clara. Do you think it's a prank? He asked. Clara shook her head. Elisa wouldn't call us if she wasn't sure. A kid calling for food, that's not normal. Something feels wrong. Yeah, Benedict agreed, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Something's definitely off. When they reached the address, the neighborhood looked old and run down. The houses were small and seemed neglected. The lawn in front of Ethan's house was overgrown, and the paint on the house was peeling. A few dirty toys were scattered across the yard. Let's do this, Clara said as they got out of the car. The house was quiet and dark. The front door was slightly open, creaking as Clara pushed it open. The air smelled bad, like alcohol and something burning. Clara and Benedict moved carefully, their flashlight beams lighting the way. The living room was messy, with bottles and empty cans scattered on the floor. On the couch, 2 adults were lying very still. Benedict checked the man. He's alive, but barely breathing, he said. Clara looked at the woman. Her face was pale and her lips were blue. When Clara touched her shoulder, the woman started shaking violently, foam coming from her mouth. They're overdosing, Clara shouted. Call for an ambulance now. Benedict spoke quickly into his radio. The paramedics arrived shortly after, their flashing lights making shadows dance on the walls. They worked fast to help the adults, but Clara's mind was on Ethan. We need to find the boy, she said to Benedict. Clara and Benedict searched the house. It was dark and smelled worse the further they went in. In a small bedroom, Clara called out softly, Ethan, are you here? In the corner of the room, under a pile of blankets, something moved. Clara shined her flashlight and saw a small boy with big, scared eyes clutching a phone. Ethan, it's okay, Clara said gently, kneeling down. I'm Officer Clara. I'm here to help you. Ethan didn't move. He just stared at her, shaking with fear. Clara held out her hand. It's all right, sweetheart. You're safe now. After a long moment, Ethan slowly reached out and took her hand. She pulled him into a hug, feeling how small and cold he was. I've got you, she whispered. You're safe now. Clara carried Ethan outside to the ambulance. The paramedics were taking his parents to the hospital. Ethan's grip on Clara's shirt was tight. At the hospital, doctors checked Ethan. He had bruises on his arms and legs and a scar on his cheek. Clara stayed by his side the whole time, holding his hand and telling him he was brave. When Ethan finally fell asleep, Clara sat by his bed watching over him. The next day, Ethan's parents were taken to jail. At the police station, Detective Sanders told Clara what he had learned. The mom admitted everything. They only kept Ethan for the money from the government. They didn't care about him, Sanders said. Clara looked at Ethan, her eyes full of concern. She knelt down to his level and spoke gently but firmly. Ethan, she said, you don't need to know everything about your parents right now. Some things are too painful. For now, let's just say they were sick and couldn't take care of you the way you deserved. You've been through so much already. Ethan looked up at her, His large eyes filled with confusion and sadness. He didn't understand everything she was saying, but he knew she cared about him. Standing nearby, Detective Sanders nodded in agreement. His face, usually stern, softened. "She's right," he said. "Let's leave those details out. That boy has enough to carry already." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of events. Court hearings, stacks of paperwork, and meetings with social services. Ethan's parents were sent to prison for a long time. They had done terrible things, hurting Ethan, using drugs, and neglecting him. Ethan's small frame bore the marks of their mistreatment. He was underweight and bruised, both physically and emotionally. Ethan stayed in the hospital for a while. The doctors and nurses there were amazed at his resilience. 3 days, they whispered to each other. He survived 3 whole days.